good afternoon, councillors, executive management team and gallery. Welcome to the Planning, Environment and Development Committee meeting for the 7th of October. Sorry for the delay, but we just have to wait until we were online. I now call for apologies. We have apologies from Councillor Jamie Chaffey and Councillor Murray O'Keefe and Councillor Gay Swain. Are there any further apologies? Can I have someone moved by Councillor Fuller, seconded by Councillor Luke? Those apologies be accepted. All those in favour? Against? Carried. We declarations of interest. We have one declaration of interest for item 3.2 from David Moses. Less than significant non-pecuniary reasons that the matter being discussed, he has a close friend. Are there any other declarations of interest? We move on to the report of the Director of Planning and Environmental Services, item 3.1, application to modify development consent number 2012-185.003, temporary amendment to annual extraction limits at 300,000 tonnes to 499,000 tonnes per annum, and amendments to definition of extraction amended to haulage direction, volume and quarry vehicle type lot 22 DP 121 6060 and lot 2 D 865898-334 Cornwall Road, Mullally, and 259 Barber Road, Mary's Mount. And I hand over to the Director of Planning and Environmental Services, Andrew Johns, to outline his recommendation.
Thanks, Mr. Deputy Mayor, and through you. As the Deputy Mayor indicated, this report relates to the modification of the existing quarry that's operating in Mary's Mount. The modification proposes to temporarily increase annual extraction limits from 360,000 tonne per annum to 499 tonne per annum, to amend the definition of extraction in line with the recent Land Environment Court finding, amend haulage direction and volumes in some cases, and also to amend quarry vehicle types, so essentially meaning larger vehicles but no more vehicle movements. The proponent hopes to provide materials to be used in the construction of the Narromine to North Star Railway line, which is obviously part of the Inland Rail proposal that's is under construction at the moment. The EPA have been provided comments in relation to matters that should be considered, and all of these have been taken into account in assessing the application. There are no changes to the total resource extraction volumes or the approved quarry footprint. There's no changes to the method that is being used for quarrying, and there is also no proposal to increase the number of approved blasts, which is currently 7 blasts, and in my reading of the EIS, they essentially use between 2 and 3 maximum per year, so they do have capacity to do more. And as such, councillors, it's recommended that the modification be approved subject to the conditions included.
It's been moved by Councillor Fuller. I have a second movement by Councillor Moses. Councillor Fuller.
It meets all the standards from our managers. We need to get on and get things going and keep Gunnedah flowing, so I'm happy to move that motion and move forward with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fuller. Do I have anybody who would like to speak against the motion or ask a question? Councillor Hasler.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, just a couple of questions to clarify for my edification. The extraction rate there is 120,000 per year cubic metres. How much in difference is that to what the original approval was? And also with regard to the maximum number of truck moves, 120 per day or 296 per week, with a maximum extraction of material to last for no more than 22 years. And in our earlier discussions today, it was made clear by the speaker at that stage that the extension of the life of the mine, it was an extension of the life of the mine rather than an increase in the operations. This would appear to me to be the reverse of that. It's not extending the life of the quarry, but it is significantly increasing the production for a limited period of time. I couldn't quite see just how long they anticipate this will go for. But did we give any consideration to VPA variation, or was that VPA agreement, which was signed by Council on the 5th of December, that has taken into consideration this proposal before we got the proposal?
Thanks for the question, Councillor Hasler. Sorry for you, Mr Deputy Mayor. There's quite a few questions in there, I think, Councillor Hasler. To answer the last question first, the condition relating to the VPA, sorry, the existing VPA, essentially allows us to charge per tonne that's moved on the road. So that effectively, whether the tonnage increases or decreases, the VPA contribution will meet that. Going back to your earlier question, you're correct, it's not increasing the lifespan of the mine, it is increasing production over an indefinite period of time in the short term in order to meet the needs of that inland rail project. The reason we haven't put a finite time on that is because there are many things out of the proponent's control and out of council's control in terms of how long that project may take and how long the materials may be needed for. But there are other questions in there that I haven't answered, Councillor.
The amount of material, how much did it go up in terms of the yearly amount of cubic metres, and the truck movements? What's the increase over what was the previous approval?
So through you, Mr Deputy Mayor, essentially the extraction limit that's approved at this stage is 360,000 tonne per annum, and the number of truck movements won't change. It's actually the makeup of the trucks that are carting the product that changes, so there won't be any increase in individual truck movements.
Thank you, Councillor Hasler, and thank you for that response. Councillor Moses, do you wish to make comment?
No, thank you, Mr Chair.
Councillor Fuller, do you have anything further to add before I put the motion?
No, thanks, Mr Mayor. I think it's been all explained, and talking to staff prior, I think it's everything's fine. I think we need to move on. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fuller. Then I'll put the motion. All those in favour, by show of hands, please. Against, I call the motion carried unanimously. We move on now to item 3.2, and I believe that Councillor Moses is going to leave the room. There's an application to modify development consent number 2019-031.002, amendments to development site plan, floor plan and elevations, increase in number of on-site parking spaces, removal of subdivision, consolidation and associated conditions, Lot 1 DP 1229687 and Lot 7, Section 33 DP 758492-209-22 and 205-207 Bloomfield Street, Gunnedah. I hand back to Mr Johns to outline the recommendation.
Thanks, Mr Deputy Mayor. Through you, as you indicated, this report relates to a modification to the Little Achievers facility, which is down on Bloomfield Street in Gunnedah. The proposed changes include the amendment to the site plan to improve solar orientation and then also improve fire separation between buildings, an increase in provision of parking on site from 26 spaces to 37 spaces, and also the deletion of the subdivision component. Council's reports there for your reading and understanding, and happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr Johns. I have somebody that move the motion. Moved by Councillor Campbell, second please. Councillor Fuller. Councillor Campbell, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor.
Do I have anybody who wishes to speak against the motion or ask a question? And that being the case,
I have one question.
Councillor
As on page 42, in relation to water, it says council infrastructure team have reviewed the development services contributions and determined that there will be no amendment to the network contribution which were imposed for the subdivision of land in error on the original development determination. Could you explain to me how that took? took place, that those charges were placed in error.
Mr. Johns.
Through you, Mr Deputy Mayor, I might flick past this one to Mr Hudson, who is this. Thank you, Mr Hasler. So the original development assessment conducted by Council's infrastructure team didn't include the development headworks contributions in error for the subdivision component of the development. So removing of the subdivision from this development proposal does not actually result in a change to the headwork contributions that are charged under Council Section 64 Development Services Plan.
Thank you, Mr. Hudson. Does that answer your question, Councillor Hasler?
They'll do some time.
And I think it's time to put the motion. All those in favour, show of hands, please. Call that unanimous. Thank you very much. The motion is carried. Can we call Councillor Moses back into the room, please? Let the record show that Councillor Moses has returned to chambers. We now move on to item 3.3, the last item on our agenda for this afternoon, development application number 2020-059, construction of detached garage, lot 1 DP 18131, 87 George Street, Gunnedah. I hand back to Mr. Johns to outline his recommendation.
Thanks, Mr Deputy Mayor. This DO relates to the seeking of consent for an additional attached garage at 87 George Street in Gunnedah. As you would have read in the report, councillors, there is a departure being sought to the cumulative area of outbuildings on site. So essentially, the maximum area of outbuildings on site is 72 square metres, and there's a proposed exceedance of 8.6 metres squared. And given the specifics of the development on this site, the departure is supported in this particular instance. I'd like to acknowledge Mr Morrissey down the back there. This is his first report to council, no doubt the first of many in his career. Have you taken any questions?
I have a mover, Councillor Luke, seconded Councillor Fuller. Councillor Luke, you wish to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor.
Anybody wish to speak against the motion or ask a question? Councillor Fuller?
Only that congratulations to our new chap for his work, Mr Morris. Sorry.
Thank you, Councillor.
Congratulations on it. Look forward to working with you as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fuller. Then I put the motion. All those in favour? Against? It's unanimous. The motion is carried. That concludes the business for October, and I call the meeting closed at 4:17 p.m.